There's been three people I would seriously credit to that. First is my father. I grew up singing in church for a little, for a long time, but then from church I went to a performing arts high school where I was classically trained. So my pops, who's my stepfather, not my biological father, but who I felt like God put on this earth to really nurture my gift, he kind of started bringing the two worlds together and cleaning up my runs and riffs and making me more strategic and making me a smarter singer and, really harnessing that gift. And then from that point, when I did my development deal with Atlantic and Songbook, Troy Taylor really helped hone in my arrangements and my studio technique. And he was really hard on me. So my father was already super hard on me. Then Troy Taylor was like super, super hard on me. He told me I was the most hard-headed student he ever had, just because I've always had like this independent way of thinking. And it's like, if you're going to tell me how to do something, you better be able to do it better than me. So he was able to be hard on me because he was just that good. And then from that point, then I had to give it to No ID. When I signed my deal with Def Jam, I thought, okay, I got this deal. I got a couple $100,000. I can do whatever the hell I want. And the first day, he locked me in a studio at Glenwood Studios in Burbank, California. And he was like, oh yeah, like we finna sit here for 2 weeks minimum and learn each other. Play me what's your top 5 classic albums? So we talked about Confessions. We talked about Thriller, of course. We talked about Purple Rain. And then he told me how he's like, yo, your gift is storytelling. Don't ever get away from the storytelling. He was like, don't try to compete with the Chris Browns. And because at the time, Barry Weiss and Peter Thea, who actually manages me now, were running Def Jam, and they came from Jive where they signed Chris. So, at the time, the light skin thing, I'm not even that light skinned, but it was like, okay, the Chris Brown comparisons were like evident. And he was like, if you do that, that's a trap. Who is Elijah Blake? What do you want to sing about? What's your story? What do you have to offer? And from that point, we really harnessed it, and there was a sound, and he paid attention to how I like guitars, but how I like hip hop drums, but he had the gift of sampling. So like when Beach 22 happened, it was literally like this tug of war. And then I liked those weird, I used to listen to like Coldplay. So then, he brought in James Poyser, and we would listen to I'm still an animal. I can't think of the band right now, but we created this thing. But again, when we brought it to Def Jam at the time, was considered alternative R&B. They were like, we don't know what the fuck this is. So we had the people, it was like the mixtape had 2 million downloads, and Don Cannon, everybody was like, yo, this is kind of where music is going. No ID, like I will say, championed me. He said, this is where music is going. But at the time, Barry Weiss was just like, yeah, I don't understand how to market this. I don't understand how to sell this. What is this? It's like electronic R&B. So I was discouraged. I was young, and I went to Jay at Rock Nation. I just was like, yo, like, I don't know what to do. Then, you keep going with this fight. But I was blessed to have people to really believe in me, man, and stick out the fight. And even though I'm not with Rock Nation and No ID anymore, those guys really protected me and really took care of me to the point where I am able to do music that I want to do and speak to who I want to speak to and make a living off of it. And that's enough for me. I've come to the conclusion that my reward comes from the songwriting I do on the side. I can make my hundreds of thousands and my millions from the Ushers and the Keisha Coles and the Justin Bieber songs I write on the side, but I refuse to compromise what I feel like God has put me on this earth to sing about, to tell people, to bring people through something. And that's just, I feel like God has told me that also, like in spirit. It's like, that's not your responsibility. I've given you that other ability, which is songwriting, to be able to afford the life you want to live and for that benefit. But your responsibility are the stories like Bad Liar that talk about mental awareness and mental health that, it doesn't necessarily all the way pay to sing about. Surprisingly, Bad Liar's doing pretty well. So I guess it's all going to come together eventually. Okay, the first one, when I first wrote, I didn't understand what publishing was. And I just didn't, you couldn't make it make sense to me. Like, somebody can add up every time a song is played on the radio and it'd be like 2-3 cents or 50 cents, and they'll put it in the bank that BMI or ASCAP runs, and then that will go into my account. So I feel like I was a starving artist. I didn't want to hit my mom up for any money because she would have told me to go to college. So when Trae and Trae Taylor walked me through getting Jupiter Love registered, and I went from like, you know, making a couple $100 teaching hip hop choreography at a like local dance studio to like, you know, a couple, several thousand in the mail every couple weeks, that blew my mind. That was a big one. When I did my publishing deal with Sony, that made, and I was like a signed songwriter, that was a big one. When I got my record deal and it was No ID and Rock Nation, you know, little old me, that was a huge one. But the real one, I think that let people know I was here to stay, was when Climax went #1 and it won a Grammy. And that was when I was like, no matter what happens, Elijah Blake won't be like a conversation of, oh, like, what does he do again? Like, that was one of the ones, like, you see, even, what, like, has it been 8 years and we're still talking about the song with the beef that just happened, you know, for better or for worse. But that's what music is supposed to be.